too much of child development and education is focused on IQ. But today I'm going to share how emotional intelligence is becoming a dominant trait our children will need in order to thrive in the future, and how we can help them in paying attention more in developing that skill.
Emotional intelligence, or also known as EQ, which stands for emotional quotient, is about feelings and emotions. To be more precise, it's about recognizing the feelings of yourself and the feelings of others. IQ stands for intelligence quotient. It is today's barometer to be able to assess children through standardized testing, to be able to tell how smart they are. And if you've seen my previous video on snowplow parenting, I go into a little bit of detail in how I feel things are a little bit out of control, where 3 to 4 year olds are being assessed through standardized testing to be able to tell if they're smart and intelligent enough to get into public school kindergarten. So I'm making today's video because I feel like too much of child development and education is focused on the hard skills of building intelligence. And I think there's one particular skill set that's being ignored and not really talked about, which is emotional intelligence. So before I go into the details of why emotional intelligence is going to be incredibly important for our kids, I'm going to talk about the 5 core skills that make up emotional intelligence. So the first core skill is self-awareness. It's about being able to recognize yourself, your desires, your emotions, and your feelings. The second core skill is empathy. So being able to share and recognize the feelings of yourself and others. The third skill is motivation. So control over yourself in order to get things done. The fourth skill is self-regulation. Being able to control and manage impulses and behaviors. So the fifth one is social skills. Communicating and interacting with others, as well as being able to lead and cooperate. So one of the reasons that emotional intelligence is going to become incredibly important for our children is the fact that we are moving away from an industrial era and into the technological era. That means that for some jobs, even the smartest person in the room is going to be overtaken by the technologies of a computer. For instance, in investment banking, there are algorithms that are overtaking the roles of humans, where they're doing a much more precise and better job at number crunching than actual people. All the way to autonomous vehicles, how they are being slated to overtake the precision in being able to move cargo across the country in a much more safer way than, for instance, humans could. So as technology starts creeping into every aspect of our life and transforms industries and what that means for the roles of humans in the future, emotional intelligence and emotional quotient are being discussed as the key skill sets and aspects that differentiate us from technology. In fact, I found this really interesting statistic in the World Economic Future of Jobs report. So what's interesting that in 2015, right here on the right hand side, we see a lot of skill sets that were based on ideas. And then shifting over to the left in 2020, skill sets such as quality control and active listening, so those are considered top skills today when we look at jobs, they're going to drop off the list and are in fact being replaced by emotional intelligence and cognitive flexibility. So what I find incredibly fascinating about this jobs report is the fact that the world of business is literally shifting and changing. So in the past, maybe the perception has been that in order to get into top companies and top jobs, you had to be incredibly smart. You might have had to have physical aspects of your skill sets that would be able to demonstrate that you're smart enough. And the fact that a lot of these assessments and standardized testing were able to tell the IQ or the intelligence quotient of people in order whether they were smart enough to get into the top colleges and to be able to get into the top companies. But what this World Economic, the Future of Jobs report is telling me is the fact that a lot of the business that's in the near future, because 2020 is 6 months from now, is actually going to need much more of these softer skills. So emotional intelligence is what's going to drive the future as a way to balance out a lot of companies from all the technology that will be, you know, part of the industries of tomorrow. And I think this is incredibly interesting how we're moving away from these hard-nosed skills into some of these more softer human skills. This is my dog here. This is Montego. Monty's, you gonna say hi? Say hello. Hi, baby. She wanted to come and say hello. Okay, I'm just gonna continue here, okay? Is that cool? Is that cool with you? Okay. So emotional intelligence is not something that I've heard in the past of top CEOs talking about how they're using that as their secret weapon to drive business forward. But there's one particular woman that I have paid attention to for many years now. Her name is Ahrendts, and maybe some of you have heard of her before, or maybe not. But basically, this woman used to be the former CEO of Burberry, and when she took over this company was in 2006 or 2007, 2008, somewhere around that time. All I know is that she took over a bankrupt company. So Burberry is a fashion luxury brand, and she took over this company during the recession. So this wasn't really a time where it was a really great way to rebuild a business, because people weren't really going out there to purchase frivolous items of fashion. And she took this company and basically talks about it openly, how tapping into her emotional quotient, she was able to turn this company around. So during the recession, she set the goals and they were incredibly ambitious for the turnaround of this company. And as she surrounded herself by different experts in the industry, they basically told her that she has about a 5% chance to be able to turn and meet her goals.
Emotive energy transcends normal communication and rational ways of working. It inspires people to do and give more. And I can say this because I have been on a real self-discovery journey, specifically the last 7-8 years. And I will tell you one thing on energy. It was funny, before I decided to accept this job, I met with the chief creative officer in New York and brainstormed over, could we create the kind of company that we both always dreamed of working for? So we put the strategies on a napkin and literally put them aside and spent the next 2 hours talking about energy, how we could create it, because we knew we would need something else additional to realize our dreams. Took the job. 8 months later, hired a consulting company, as you often do in this position, to confuse you with some facts. They went on to tell my board there was a 5% probability that I could achieve the plan I put forward. And funny, because looking back, I don't think they ever considered energy or realized how quickly it could unite, align, and bring promise. The plan was achieved 1 year early. I can say this because I have a lot of experience in intuition, in feeling. I am a little odd. I am what in our industry we call a 50-50. I am half right brain empathetic, and I am half left brain analytical. I have learned to feel my way through life, personally and professionally. I have learned to listen and to hone my instincts, to be perceptive and be receptive, to change, to constantly live in ambiguity. How else can leaders today look around the corner and warn others what's coming? Only when you follow your instincts and continually renew your mind can your possibilities become realities.
When you hear her talking, she shares how a lot of the emphasis of who she is today, she really accredits to her parents. And there's one really special clip in there that I'll share with you that she talks about her dad.
My father's voice has guided me for years. And he always used to say he would know he'd done a great job if when I looked at a photo, I saw myself last.
So that quote from her father actually made a really huge impact on me. It kind of switched on the light bulb, the fact that emotional intelligence isn't something that we're naturally necessarily born with. Sure, some people might be a little bit more in tune with other people's feelings and they naturally might be a little bit more empathetic. But one of the things that I'm learning is that emotional intelligence is something that needs to be cultivated and taught to our children. So due to Angela's incredible success, where she basically paired a lot of her business acumen together with this aspect of emotional intelligence, and she's been able to turn companies around, this woman is in incredibly high demand in the world of business. If you look at Angela's salary from 2014, that is the last time it has been reported, the woman made $73 million. That's an incredible amount of money. And the reason she has made that much money is that she's in high demand. She not only left as the CEO of Burberry to then join Apple, she then left Apple, I'm not sure what she's doing now, but she has a collective net worth of, they're reporting around $200+ million. The reason I believe she has been able to become so successful is the fact that she pairs her business acumen together with the idea of emotional intelligence. Now, I'm not saying that woman isn't smart enough to be able to, turn companies around just based on her business acumen, but I do think the idea of emotional intelligence has become her secret superpower that maybe a lot of CEOs in her seat who have not maybe used that power were not able to get the same results that she has. And I just wanted to bring that out, not because everybody needs to make $73 million, but the fact that having that superpower has been incredibly helpful for her. Now, if any of you follow Angela and you know her, she does not get wrapped up and caught up in the money. She is somebody that obviously is incredibly empathetic and she thinks about the greater good in society. But I just wanted to point that out, is the fact that this skill set is not only going to become incredibly important for our children, but it's already becoming and showing how its use is able to really change and turn things around. And I actually came across another article of an interview with her in the 2018 Global Leadership Summit. And she talks about how she actually looks for emotional intelligence, or the emotional quotient, when she interviews employees. So here's what she says. I always look if people are a me or a we type of person. Is it all about them, or do they talk more about what their teams have accomplished? I tend to lean into people's emotional quotient, their emotional intelligence. We're building teams, we're building cultures. It's not just about hiring great individuals, it's about hiring people that fit into that team that you're building. I do think the next generation, if they're able to cultivate the skill set of emotional intelligence, has the ability not just to be able to change the way that they will relate to themselves, but how they will relate to others. And I think that this has the potential to not only change society, but the world that we live in. I do look at people such as Angela and I start to think about what would our world look like if we had not just business people like Angela with a high emotional quotient, but what about presidential and government leaders? What would our world look like then? The same thing goes for having kids with a high emotional quotient. What if we had children that were able to self-regulate themselves, to be able to recognize the negative feelings that they're feeling and be able to overcome those emotional obstacles and challenges within themselves? I wonder what our anxiety, depression, and suicide rates would look like then. So I do think that as parents and educators, we do have a responsibility in cultivating the aspect of emotional intelligence in our children. And that's not just because I believe that kids will benefit from it, but I do think that it's a responsibility for our society for the future. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know that it is a hefty topic to talk about, but it is something that I feel very passionate about. I do think that this aspect of emotional intelligence actually has the potential to change a lot of the ills that we see today with children and teenagers. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is because I want to bring much more awareness in parents and educators about its importance.